Shortly before 5 o'clock Friday morning, a gray light slipped into the city. The air was warm and the sky was hazy, and everything beneath seemed still. Two flags flanking the Fifth Avenue entrance to St. Patrick's Cathedral hung motionless at half-staff. On the south side of 51st Street, a long line of people who had gathered during the dark of night emerged in ghostly fashion from the gloom of the cathedral's granite facade. Fatigue and sorrow could be seen on the faces. The line stretched back along 51st Street to Park Avenue, and with a first glimmer of sunrise reflecting pink against the eastern sky it began to build, as, from all directions, and with almost no other sound than that of footsteps scraping softly upon pavement, a people of New York arrived to mourn the death of Robert Kennedy. Within a few minutes the line doubled and redoubled itself until it reached Park Avenue, turned south, and began to fill up 6 deep behind police barricades that had been set out on the sidewalks. Then, at 5:30, the line began to move slowly toward the side entrance to the cathedral on 51st Street near 5th Avenue. People whose heads had been nodding in sleep awakened, straightened, and took stiff, mechanical steps ahead. An elderly Negro woman who had been sitting in a folding chair got heavily to her feet and, assisted by a young man with shoulder-length hair, started forward with a halting gait. Behind her, a man in a wheelchair propelled himself as far as the steps to the entranceway, where 2 policemen came to his aid and lifted him inside. On the other side of the street, a busboy in a white mess jacket sat on an ashcan before a restaurant and watched the mourners with tears streaming down his cheeks. Inside the cathedral, the line moved through the gloomy nave down the long center aisle toward a maroon-draped catafalque that stood before the altar. The catafalque bore a plain mahogany casket that was flanked by 6 tall candelabras with amber tapers, and by 6 men who had been close to Robert Kennedy, who formed an honor guard. During the night, television crewmen had erected several large scaffolds for their equipment, and a battery of powerful floodlights illuminated the bier with a harsh and unreal glare. The mourners approached the catafalque 2 by 2 and then separated to pass it on either side. Some people crossed themselves as they went by the coffin, others reached out and touched its lid, a few bent down to brush it with their lips. At 6 o'clock, a priest in red vestments began to intone the words of the Mass, and many of the mourners took seats in the pews and stayed on to listen and to pray. Very few appeared to notice that Edward Kennedy, who had stayed near the bier of his brother throughout the night, was sitting on the aisle in the 11th row, looking straight ahead. Half blinded as they emerged from the darkness of the nave and into the merciless brilliance of the television lights, the mourners seemed to pass numbly through a corridor of total exposure. They included white and black nuns, girls in slacks and miniskirts, workmen in shirt sleeves, matrons and children, and businessmen wearing 3-button suits and carrying briefcases. The words of the priest continued to echo through the vast cathedral, "Lord have mercy, Christ have mercy, Lord have mercy." At 6:45, Edward Kennedy stood, drew himself erect, and, as if relinquishing himself to a river, joined the line of mourners, walking slowly into the searing light, looking at the casket containing the body of his brother. Then, following the others, he walked through the south transept of the cathedral and out onto 50th Street, where, in the rising sun, the tall buildings, trees, awnings, and other gnomons of this perpendicular city were beginning to cast the shadows that would mark the passage of the day.